Hi there, my name is Kate Shaffer and I am the owner and founder of Ragged Coast Chocolates. I've been running the business with my husband Steve for 13 years and we operate out of Westbrook, Maine, which is just west of Portland, Maine. And if you've ever been to this part of the country this time of year, then you know that right now it is really beautiful and there's no bugs. And there isn't a better place, in my opinion, to live and work and make chocolate. So we make super fancy chocolates. We make truffles and sea salt caramels, as well as lots of novelty items like chocolate frogs and lobsters and all that stuff. But basically, we're here just making awesome things with awesome ingredients. We take a lot of pride in making chocolate confections with super fresh, real ingredients that come from our friends and neighbors. The important thing to remember though is that I started in my home kitchen, and I thought that it would be fun today to teach you how to make truffles, bittersweet chocolate truffles, using 3 ingredients and in the comfort of your own home kitchen. So let's get started. So I've written a couple of cookbooks, both deal with chocolate. The first one is a lot about how we started our small business on a tiny island off the coast of Maine. There's lots of chocolate recipes and some personal essays about life on the island, running a chocolate cafe on the island, and that kind of thing. The second one came out last November, and this is the one that I wanted to talk to you about. So this is Chocolate for Beginners. Basically, it covers how to make quality confections in your home kitchen. So that's what we're going to be working from today. We're going to be making this recipe, classic hand-rolled bittersweet chocolate truffles. And this is what we need. 12 ounces of bittersweet chocolates, 2 ounces of unsalted butter, and 6 ounces of heavy cream. We're gonna pour the heavy cream into a small saucepan and go ahead and bring it to a full boil on your stove. Okay. Go ahead and put the butter right on top of your chocolate. And I've cut it up into little pieces here because it's a little cold. Ideally, you want your butter at a very soft room temperature. And as soon as that cream comes to a full boil, you want to pull it off the stove and pour it all right over that chocolate. You're depending on the heat of the cream to melt all that chocolate and butter. Okay, so while we're waiting for that hot cream to soften that chocolate, we have about a minute to talk about what you should use as chocolate. So basically what I tell people is use what you love. What tastes good to you? Are you milk chocolate lover? Are you white chocolate lover? Are you only dark chocolate? Takes all kinds, right? But it makes a big difference on who is manufacturing it and where it's coming from. In our case, we use exclusively chocolate from Latin America. All of our chocolate is directly traded. That means the chocolate manufacturer, in this case República del Cacao, deals directly with the farmers and their families when they are buying and trading their chocolate. Basically the raw product is cacao beans. So when they harvest the chocolate in Ecuador, the farmers scoop out the seeds and then they bring it to the collection center. The beans are fermented and then dried and then bagged up and brought to the manufacturing facility in Quito, which is where they make their bittersweets, their milks, and their white chocolates. And one of the cool things about RDC is that they also use sugar that is made in Ecuador and milk that is produced in Ecuador. And that's really important to us because the communities that these products are coming from, the cacao, the milk, the sugar, that trade is staying within those communities. Just like for the same reasons we use local ingredients here in Maine. You know, we buy our cream, our butter, our herbs, fruits, and flowers, all from farmers that are basically within a 50-mile radius of us. And that means that the money that we trade for those ingredients stays in our communities and enriches our communities and gets put back into the soil and the community life. That's one of our major criteria for both chocolate and the rest of our ingredients. Okay, let's get back to our truffles. Okay, after about a minute, we're gonna go ahead and start stirring the cream and the chocolate and the butter together. What we're doing is we're emulsifying these ingredients. I use just a basic heat-proof rubber spatula to do this. You could use a whisk, but it tends to add air bubbles to your ganache, which I don't think really improves the texture that much. Probably it's not enough to be noticeable, but I think it's just a good idea to try and keep the air to a minimum. Okay, so once all your chocolate is incorporated and your butter is incorporated and you have this nice, smooth, very homogeneous ganache, we're gonna pour it into our 9-inch cake plate. This is the one I use. Something with a nice, flat, even surface. So this should have the consistency of kind of a soft pudding. Okay, once it's in the cake plate, kind of level it out so that everything is even and it will cool at a very regulated, at a very normal temperature. I don't even know what I'm saying. And before you put it in your refrigerator, go ahead and put a piece of plastic wrap over it and press it down onto the surface of the ganache. This will prevent condensation from forming on the surface of the ganache. Okay, so we have taken our ganache out of the refrigerator. It's nice and firm. We're going to remove the plastic wrap and start making our round truffles. So I use a little tiny cookie scoop like this, but you can use a teaspoon. Whatever you have on hand will work. So we're just scooping a little bit of chocolate and setting it aside. And oops, I see a little butter in there that didn't get fully emulsified. That's all right. Okay, once all your ganache is scooped, I just like to go through and re-roll everything so that it's nice and pretty. All right, let's talk a little bit about cocoa powder. So I have two different kinds here. This is what we call natural cocoa powder or non-alkalized. And this is what we call Dutch processed cocoa powder or alkalized cocoa powder. So basically, the cocoa powder is a byproduct of extracting cocoa butter from the cocoa bean. And to remove bitterness, it can sometimes be rinsed in an alkaline solution, and this is what happens to it. It turns very dark. It's not as bitter as, say, the natural cocoa powder. And they say it dissolves better in liquids, so this is a popular choice for hot chocolate mixes and stuff like that. I don't find that to be the case, but it is more universally appealing and has a bit of a silkier flavor. Almost in all our applications here at Ragged Coast, we use natural cocoa powder. We use a really lovely organic variety from Peru, and it is not super bitter, but it is very light in color. Now, when you bake this in a cake, it does darken up. But I love the two together because it gives us a nice color palette that is different and fun. All right, so let's start with the Dutch process. And this is basically what we're gonna do. We're gonna put our rolled balls of ganache into the cocoa powder and roll them around. Oops. And continue on in that way. Well, I hope you are watching the end of this presentation with a plate full of fresh chocolate truffles. Thanks so much for joining me here at Ragged Coast, and I hope that when you're in Maine next, you come say hi. Everybody, have a great fall.